Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Chapter 8. Maitreya Uvacha Sattve Satsevaniyo Bhatapuruvamsho Yallokapalo Bhagavat Pradhanaha Babhuvite Hajita Kirtimalam Pade Pade Nutana Yasya Bhikshnam. The great sage Maitreya Muni said to Vidura, "The royal dynasty of the king Puru is worthy to serve the pure devotees because all the descendants of that family are devoted to the personality of Godhead. You are also born in that family, and it is wonderful that because of your attempt, the transcendental pastimes of the Lord are becoming newer and newer at every moment. Soham runam kshulla sukhaya dukkham mahadgatanam viramaya tasya pravartaye bhagavatam puranam yadaha sakshad bhagavan rishibhyah." Let me now begin speaking on the Bhagavata Purana, which was directly spoken to the great sages by the personality of Godhead for the benefit of those who are entangled in extreme miseries for the sake of very little pleasure. Asina murvyam bhagavantamadhyam sankarshanam devamakuntasatvam vivitsavastatvamatah parasya kumaramukhya munayonvapruchan. Some time ago, being inquisitive to know, Sanat Kumara, the chief of the boy saints, accompanied by other great sages, inquired exactly like you about the truths regarding Vasudeva, the Supreme, from Lord Sankarshana, who is seated at the bottom of the universe. Swameva dishnyam bahumanayantam yadvasudevabhidamamananti pratyagdhrutaksham bhujakosamisha dunmishad unmilayantam vibudhodhayaya. At that time, Lord Sankarshana was meditating upon his Supreme Lord, whom the learned esteem as Lord Vasudeva, but for the sake of the advancement of the great learned sages, he slightly opened his lotus eyes and began to speak. Swardhunyudadhrai swajatakalapayir upasprushantashcharanopathanam padmam yadarchantyahirajakanyaha sapremanana balibhirvarartaha. The sages came from the highest planets down to the lower regions through the water of the Ganges, and therefore the hair on their heads was wet. They touched the lotus feet of the Lord, which was worshipped with various paraphernalia by the daughters of the Serpent King when they desire good husbands. Muhurgunanto vachasanuragas swalpat skalatpadenasya krutani tajnyaha kirita sahasramapi किरीटसाहस्रमणिप्रवेक प्रद्योतितो धामफणा सहस्रम्. The four Kumaras, headed by Sanat Kumara, who all knew the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, glorified the Lord in rhythmic accents with selected words full of affection and love. At that time, Lord Sankarshana, with his thousands of raised hoods, began to radiate an effulgence from the glowing stones on his head. प्रोक्तं किलैतद्भगवत्तमेन निवृत्तिधर्माभिरताय तेन सनत्कुमाराय चाह पृष्टः साङ्ख्यायनायाङ्गधृतव्रताय. Lord Sankarshana thus spoke to the purport of Shrimad Bhagavatam to the great sage Sanat Kumara, who had already taken the vow of renunciation. Sanat Kumara also, in his turn, when inquired of by Sankhyayana Muni, explained Shrimad Bhagavatam as he heard it from Sankarshana. Sankhyayana Paramahംस्यमुख्यो विवक्षमाणो भगवद्विभूतिः जगादसोऽस्मद्गुरवेन्विताय पराशरायात बृहस्पतेश्च. The great sage Sankhyayana was the chief amongst the transcendentalists, and when he was describing the glories of the Lord in terms of Shrimad Bhagavatam, it so happened that my spiritual master Parasara and Brihaspati both heard him. Provacha mahyam sadayalurukto munif pulastyena purana madhyam soham tavaitat katayami vatsa shraddhalave nityamanuvrataya. The great sage Parasara, as aforesaid, being so advised by the great sage Pulastya, spoke unto me the foremost of the Puranas, Bhagavatam. I shall also describe this before you, my dear son, in terms of my hearing, because you are always my faithful follower. Udaplutam vishwamidam tadasid yennidraya milita drungya milayat ahindratalpe dhishayana ekaha krutakshanah swatmas ratau nirihaha. At that time, when the three worlds were submerged in water, Garbhodakasayi Vishnu was alone, lying on his bedstead, the great snake Ananta, and also he appeared to be in slumber in his own internal potency, free from the action of the external energy. His eyes were not completely closed. Sontasharirerpita bhuta sukshmaha कालात्मिकां शक्तिमुदीरयाणः अवास तस्मिन् सलिले पदे स्वे यतानलो धारुणि रुद्धवीर्यः. Just like the strength of the fire within fuel wood, the Lord remained within the water of dissolution, submerging all living entities in their subtle bodies. He lay in the invigorated energy called Kala. Chaturyuganam cha sahasramapsu swan swayodiritaya skalatya kalakyaya sadita karma tantro lokana pitandradrushe swadehe. The Lord lay down for 4,000 yuga cycles in his internal potency, and by his external energy, he appeared to be sleeping within the water. When the living entities were coming out for further development or their fruitive activities, actuated by the energy called Kala Shakti, he saw his transcendental body as bluish. तस्यार्थसूक्ष्माभिनिवृष्टदृष्टेर् अन्तर्गतेऽर्तो रजसा तनीयान् गुणेन कालानुगतेन विद्धः सूष्यंस्तथा भिद्यतनाभिदेशात्. The subtle subject matter of creation on which the Lord's attention was fixed was agitated by the material mode of passion, and thus the subtle form of creation pierced through his abdomen. Sapadmakoshas sahasodatishtat kalena karma pratibodhanena swarochishat talsalilam vishalam vidyotayennarka ivatmayonihi. Piercing through this sum total form of the fruitive activity of the living entities took the shape of the bud of the lotus flower, generated from the personality of Vishnu, and by his supreme will it illuminated everything like the sun and dried up the vast waters of devastation. Tallokapadmam sa eva Vishnuhu pravivishat sarvagunavabhasam tasmin swayam vedamayo vidhata swayam bhuvam yamsma vadanti sobhut. Into that universal lotus flower, Lord Vishnu personally entered as the super soul, and when it was thus impregnated with all the modes of material nature, the personality of Vedic wisdom, whom we call the self-born, was generated. Tasyam sachamboruha karnikayam avastito lokamapashyamanaha parikraman vyomni vivruttanetraschatvari lebhenudisham mukhani. Brahma, born out of the lotus flower, could not see the world, although he was situated in the whirl. He therefore circumambulated all the space, and while moving his eyes in all directions, he achieved 4 heads in terms of the 4 directions. Tasmadugantashvasanavaghurna jalorбhichakrat saliladviruddham upashritah kanjasulokatatvam natmanamadhavidadhadi devaha. Lord Brahma, situated in that lotus, could not perfectly understand the situation, the lotus or himself. At the end of the millennium, the air of devastation began to move the water and the lotus in great circular waves. Ka esha yosavahamajja prushta etat kruto vabja mananya drapsu astihyadastadiha kinchanaitad adhishtitam yatra satanubhavyam. Lord Brahma, in his ignorance, contemplated, "Who am I that I am situated on the top of this lotus? Wherefrom has this sprouted? Wherefrom has it sprouted? There must be something downward, and that from which this lotus has grown must be within the water." Sa ittamudviksha tadabjanala nadi birantarjalamavivesha narvaghatastats narvagatastaskaranaala nala narvagatastaskaranaala nabhim vichinvamstada vindatajaha. Lord Brahma, thus contemplating, entered the water through the channel of the stem of the lotus. But in spite of entering the stem and going nearer to the navel of the Vishnu, he could not trace out the root. Tamasya pare viduratmasargam vichinvato bhut sumaham strinemihi vichinvato bhut sumaham strinemihi yo deha bhajam bhayamirayanaha parikshinotyayurajasya hetihi. O Vidura, while searching in that way about his existence, Brahma reached his ultimate time, which is the eternal wheel in the hand of Vishnu and which generates fear in the mind of the living entity like the fear of death. Tato nivrutto pratilabdhakamaha swadhishnyamasadya punasadevah shanairjitashvasanivruttachitton yashidadharuda samadhiyogah. Thereafter, being unable to achieve the desired destination, he retired from such searching and came back again to the top of the lotus. Thus, controlling all objectives, he concentrated his mind on the Supreme Lord. Kalena sojah purushayushabhi pravritta yogena viruda bodha swayam tadantar hrudayeva bhatam apashyata yenna purvam. At the end of Brahma's 100 years, when his meditation was complete, he developed the required knowledge, and as a result, he could see in his heart the Supreme within himself, whom he could not see before with great endeavor. Mrunala gaurayata shosha bhoga paryanka ekam purusham shayanam panatapatrayuta murdharatna dhyubirhatadvanta yuganta toye. Brahma could see that on the water there was a gigantic lotus-like white bedstead, this body of the Seshanaga, on which the personality of Godhead was lying alone. The whole atmosphere was illuminated by the rays of the jewels bedecking the hood of Seshanaga, and that illumination dissipated all the darkness of those regions. Preksham kshipantam haritopaladrehe sandhyabraniverurukmamurdhnaha ratnodadharaushadhi saumanasya vanasrajo venu bhujanggripangrehe. The luster of the transcendental body of the Lord mocked the beauty of the coral mountain. The coral mountain is very beautifully dressed by the evening sky, but the yellow dress of the Lord mocked its beauty. There is gold on the summit of the mountain, but the Lord's helmet, bedecked with jewels, mocked it. The mountains, waterfalls, herbs, etc., with a panorama of flowers, seem like garlands, but the Lord's gigantic body and his hands and legs decorated the jewels, pearls, tulasi leaves, and flower garlands mocked the scene on the mountain. Ayamano vistaratah swamana dehena lokatraya sangrahena vichitra divyabharana shukanam krutashriya pashrita veshadeham. His transcendental body, unlimited in length and breadth, occupied the three planetary systems, upper, middle, and lower. His body was self illuminated by unparalleled dress and variegatedness and was properly ornamented. Pumsam swakamaya पुंसां स्वकामाय विविक्तमार्गैर् अभ्यर्चतां कामदुगां कृपद्मं प्रदर्शयन्तं कृपया नकेन्दो मयूखभिन्नाङ्गुलिचारुपत्रम्. The Lord showed his lotus feet by raising them. His lotus feet are the source of all awards achieved by the devotional service, free from material contamination. Such awards are for those who worship him in pure devotion. The splendor of the transcendental rays from his moon-like toenails and fingernails appeared like the petals of a flower. मुकेन लोकार्तिहरिस्मितेन परिस्फुरत्कुण्डलमण्डितेन शोणायितेनाधरबिम्बभासा प्रत्यर्हयन्तं सुनसेन सुभ्रुवा. He also acknowledged the service of the devotees and vanquished his distress by his beautiful smile. The reflection of his face, decorated with earrings, was so pleasing because it dazzled with the rays of his lips and the beauty of his nose and eyebrows. Kadamba kinjalka pishangavasasa swalankrutam mekhalaya निमम्भे मेखलया नितम्बे हारेण चानन्तधनेन वत्स श्रीवत्स वक्षःस्थलवल्लभेन. O my dear Vidura, the Lord's waist was covered with yellow cloth resembling the saffron dust of the Kadamba flower, and it was encircled by a well-decorated belt. His chest was decorated with the Srivatsa markings and the necklace of unlimited value. Parardhya Keyuramanipraveka Paryastadordhandasahasrashakam Avyaktamulam Bhuvanangripendram Ahindra Bhogairathivita Valsham. As a sandalwood tree is decorated with fragrant flowers and branches, the Lord's body was decorated with valuable gems and pearls. He was the self-situated tree, the Lord of all others in the universe. And as a sandalwood tree is covered with many snakes, so the Lord's body was also covered by the hoods of Ananta. Characharauko Bhagavan Mahindram Ahindra Bandhum Salilopagudam Kirita Sahasra Hiranyashrungam Avirbhavat Kaustuba Ratnagarbham. Like a great mountain, the Lord stands as the abode of all moving and non-moving living entities. He is the friend of the snakes because Lord Ananta is his friend. As a mountain has thousands of golden peaks, so the Lord was seen with thousands of golden helmeted hoods of Anantanaga. And as a mountain is sometimes filled with jewels, so this transcendental body was fully decorated with valuable jewels. As a mountain is sometimes submerged in the ocean water, so the Lord is sometimes submerged in the water of devastation. निवीतमाम्नाय मधुव्रताश्रिया स्वकीर्तिमव्या वनमालया हरिं सूर्येन्द्रुवाव्यङ्ग्यगमं त्रिधामभिः परिक्रमत्पार्धनिकैर्दुरासदम्. Lord Brahma, thus looking upon the Lord in the shape of the mountain, concluded that he was Hari, the personality of Godhead. He saw that the garland of flowers on his chest glorified him with Vedic wisdom in sweet songs and looked very beautiful. He was protected by the Sudarshana wheel for fighting, and even the sun, moon, air, fire, etc. could not have access to him. तर्ह्येव तन्नाभि सरसरोजम् आत्मानमम्ब श्वसनं वियच्च ददर्श देवो जगतो विधाता नातः परं लोक विसर्गदृष्टिः. When Lord Brahma, the maker of the universal destination, thus saw the Lord, he simultaneously glanced over creation. Lord Brahma saw the Lord in Lord Vishnu's navel and the lotus flower, as well as the devastating water, the drying air, and the sun and the sky. All became visible to him. Sakarma bhijam rajasoparaktaha prajasi srukshanniyadeva društva astau dvisargabhimukhastamidhyam avyaktavartmanyabhiveshitatma. Lord Brahma, thus being surcharged with the mode of passion, became inclined to create, and after seeing the 5 causes of the creation indicated by the personality of Godhead, he began to offer his respectful prayers on the path of creative mentality. Thus ends the chapter entitled Manifestation of Brahma from Garbhodakasayi. From Garbhodakasayi Vishnu. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.